I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse, trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Paranormal Odyssey. I am your host, Wayne, joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Miss Tiffany. How you doing, ma'am?
I'm wonderful. How you doing?
Doing just freaking-tastic. Awesome, as always. Super excited about tonight's show.
Me too.
Brian, not the Brian we're used to, but Brian from Black Mass Paranormal was backstage hanging out. Had a chance to talk to him for a few minutes. Super cool dude. Widely successful YouTube channel. Gonna come on and talk about some cool stuff. And he and I are practically neighbors. He's up in Knoxville. I'm in Chattanooga, so we're both Tennessee boys. Several more Tennessee boys in here. You know how we do. But yeah, I'm excited to... What?
Got to stick together. Them volunteers.
That's right. I thought you was being smart.
You wouldn't have me any other way.
That's right. All right, let's get all of this up out the way. Guys, if y'all are new to the channel and you have not done so already, please hit that subscribe button. We would certainly appreciate it. The show continues to grow. We are headed in the right direction, but we still need your help to get to where we want to be. So please hit that subscribe button.
And if you would like to be on with Wayne and myself, you can reach out to him, Wayne at ParanormalWorldProductions.com, or myself, Tiffany at ParanormalWorldProductions.com. And we are slamming with guests, guys. So the quicker you get to us, the better. We have 9 shows in February. March is completely full, so we're booking for April. So just shoot us an email and we'll get you on.
Guys, if you would head over to ParanormalWorldProductions.com. That's our website. Check out all the other shows under the umbrella. I think there's like 7 of them. Pick up some merch. You can do that from the website as well. Check out all the blogs and all that good stuff. But head over to ParanormalWorldProductions.com.
And if you have any questions, which I know you will, if you could please put them in all capital letters, it just makes it so much easier for Wayne and I to capture them. And we are going to highlight them and put them in a separate area so we can have all the questions in one spot so we can pull them probably closer to the end of the show so we can get them answered for you. Just put them in all capital letters for us.
Yeah, that's a new feature that, I was actually on with Steve Cole's Sunday night. Saw a lot of you guys there over on his channel, The Squatch Detective. Hung out with him for a couple hours, and I saw that that's what they do over there. And that's really, really smart, and we're going to start doing it. So ask your questions as they pop into your head, but put them in all caps. That still helps us to find them. But when you do that, we're just going to put them in a separate file and save them toward the end of the show and ask them then. I think that just works out better instead of interrupting the guest and having to go back to search for questions. I think it's just going to work out really, really well. So we're going to try that tonight. It'll be the first time at that. So ask your questions as normal, put them in caps, but we won't get to them till the end of the show.
Yeah.
All right. One more thing before we get to our guest. We are still looking for our 50 members. Our members are open. Memberships are open, as well as the super chats, guys. If you'd like to help out the show in that way, our memberships are $1.99. It's just one tier, $1.99. First 50 people, you'll be entered into a drawing. Person will win a Yeti lunchbox, an autographed copy of one of Naomi Finn's books, and a Paranormal Odyssey t-shirt. So yeah, $1.99 is not breaking the bank for anybody, guys. So if y'all can help us out, we would certainly appreciate that. All right, you got anything else, ma'am?
No, I've been anticipating this interview for ever and today.
I have too. The poll question tonight, if you guys have seen it, I'm gonna go ahead and bring that up. Are there feral people in the Smoky Mountains?
Ooh, good
right now, there's
question.
been 12 people have voted, and overwhelmingly, y'all say yes. 92% say yes, that there are, and I am in your camp. I honestly believe that. The guy that we got backstage, Brian, he's killing it out there. He's going out. I told you he lives in Knoxville. He's going out to the Smokies, and he has got several videos up going out looking for feral people. And y'all have heard me talk about this many times. I'm super interested in the feral people. I've heard Brian talk about the Dennis Martin case. Y'all have heard how fascinated I am with the Dennis Martin case. I think there's a connection there. So I'm just really excited to get him on. And if you are ready, Tiffany, we're just going to go ahead and do that.
I was born ready for this one.
Brian, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man.
What's up, guys?
How you doing today?
Thank you for having me. Doing good. Been out investigating, running around the mountains, trying to chase down monsters and whatnot, whatever I can find.
Awesome. Yeah, man, you're killing it out there. Your YouTube channel, Black Mass Paranormal, how many subs you up to now?
I think like 45,400.
50. Yeah, you'll be at 50 before you know it, man. That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, we're just going to jump right in, because we've only got you for about an hour or so. But if you would, we do this with everybody. Just take us back to the beginning, man. Tell us what piqued your interest in the weird, whether it was Bigfoot, ghosts, paranormal, just whatever. Just what got you started?
Yeah. Well, I would say I've always kind of been full paranormal. When I was a kid, growing up in East Tennessee, the area that I grew up in, it was nothing but farmland, and wilderness. So the majority of my time was spent running around in the woods. And I would have these experiences that I didn't understand. Like, I had a Bigfoot experience when I was young, and I didn't know how to interpret it. If back in the day, this kind of before the internet, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about like Bigfoot. Obviously when you were a kid, well, at least me anyway, when I go to the library, I always gravitated to the Mothman books. So that really, fascinated me. But, when I was a young kid, I had an experience with a Bigfoot. And my mom was always really into the paranormal as well, but she was more into the kind of witchcraft kind of interest. side of it. She had several friends, and um, being a kid, it, kind of freaked me out, but at the same time, like, spooked my interest. I remember hiding the Ouija board when when I was a kid. Um, I'd sneak downstairs and I'd grab it and go hide it. But what really kind of set me off was in this house that we lived in, and that's where my name comes from. Um, One, it was during the summer in East Tennessee. It gets hot, it gets muggy. The house that I was living in at the time, it was built in the late 1800s. So it wasn't exactly insulated very well. So I was sitting on the couch in the middle of summer, and there's this long hallway that goes back to the bedrooms, and I'm just sitting there and I'm just miserable because it's like muggy and I can't get cooled off. And I look down at the end of the hallway and I see this black mass at the end of the hallway. My first thought was that it was a somebody had broken into the house. So I jump up, I take off running down the hallway, and by the time I get to the end of the hallway, it's so cold that I can see my breath. And from that point, a lot of the paranormal activity started kicking up in the house, from having somebody sounded like just pacing back and forth on the porch, to plates spinning, like all kinds of crazy stuff, to the point where we essentially had to leave the house. And after that point, I really wanted answers, and I wanted people not to think I was crazy, from these experiences that I was having. And so I really kind of started diving into the research side of it and trying to find ways to reproduce this type of evidence. You know, Growing up in East Tennessee, you'll hear a lot of the times with families that have lived in East Tennessee through generations, they'll talk about being careful about going out in the woods at night, because either the monsters or the people in the woods, that you would have run-ins with. And, I once I was to develop my confidence enough, to take that leap and step out in the woods at night by myself in areas where other people had these experiences, it really just kind of opened me up to like a whole new world. And my perspective on it kind of continues to be fine tuned, I believe. Right now I've got a really good friend. His name's Willis, and we talk all the time. And he really, it's awesome to be able to bounce ideas off somebody like that. And he's brilliant. Like a lot of his theories, I'm able to go out and test and really kind of develop this whole thing, and it's really interesting.
You're
Sorry,
muted,
I was
Wayne.
muted. Yeah, I was muted. Sorry. Yeah, a lot of the stuff you said, Brian. There, I have said so many times. I've talked about it. How it was growing up.
Yeah.
We didn't have the internet. We had to go to the library, and you talked about looking at the Mothman. And I found myself every time I was able to go to the library looking for cryptids. I didn't know
Yeah.
they were called cryptids back then,
Yeah.
but Bigfoot always had a special place in my heart. So
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And you talk about the heat in East Tennessee. It is like nothing else.
Yeah. It's
Unless
something else,
unless
man.
you lived here and you know the humidity,
Yeah.
standing outside doing absolutely nothing and just pouring sweat.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
crazy. It's crazy. Uh, well, another thing I took from that was it's really cool that it seems like you had a support system growing up. You said your mom was interested in paranormal. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't really have that. You mentioned a Bigfoot experience that you didn't realize was Bigfoot. Did I
Mhm.
hear that right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was that?
Well, at the time, I had no idea what I was experiencing. Of course, later on, I figured out it was a Bigfoot, but
Right.
I had been down on this edge of this like cove, right? And I'm looking across the cove, and on the other side of it, there's like a cow farm, but closer to me across the cove, it was all like wooded area. I see this creature, coming across the wood line, and this thing is just basically picking up trees like they're toothpicks and tossing them. And my initial thought, kind of as a kid, was like, "Oh, that's a weird bear," because I mean, this thing was huge. It was something
You
that
saw it.
yeah, I had no idea what this thing was. And typically a normal person would probably freak out and run away, but I was so mesmerized with this thing that I had no idea what it was, moving back and forth across the wood line just across the lake. I mean, in reality, like if it wanted me, it could have just came right across the little pond cove thing and been on me in no time. But um, and when I went back and I told my parents about it, and yeah, my dad initially joked and was like, "Yeah, it's a Bigfoot," you know, and that kind of I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know exactly what it was. Of course, my dad wasn't necessarily into the paranormal. It was more on my mom's side, but my dad, he, grew up riding motorcycles. My family was like the other side of my family was originally from, a small town outside of Charleston in West Virginia. So we're kind of Appalachian through and through. So, it's those stories have always been there and passed along. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. You actually laid eyes on it at an early age. That is so freaking cool.
Yeah, it was wild. I still remember it, man. I still remember the way that it moved, the way that it picked, the way that it was just grabbing trees. It
How
was
far
wild.
away was it, Brian?
Um, I would say it was probably 75 to 100 yards.
That's close enough to tell that it's not a damn bear.
Oh yeah,
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 bears don't grab trees and,
no,
and pick them up and throw them.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
never seen it anyway. You might have been too far away, Brian, but did you notice a smell at all?
I can't say that I remembered the smell. No, no.
Okay. Okay.
Not,
Any
now
was there any
I've experienced that smell plenty of times since then. But
really? Okay. Tell us
yeah,
about that smell because that's something I've never experienced. There's only a
yeah,
couple of things in the Bigfoot phenomena that I haven't personally experienced, and the smell is one of them.
yeah.
What did you take from the smell?
Well, so with doing as much cryptid research um, as I do, I've in going to the different locations that I do, they in a way kind of all have a unique odor to them. The feral people, I would say, like gravitate more towards like um a garbage type smell. But like for me, for the Sasquatch side of it, they really have like kind of like a wet dog mixed with garbage smell, and in a sense, it's almost kind of sweet, if you could describe a smell as sweet.
Right.
But it's a very unique odor for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I always that, and it always differs because people perceive things differently. But
Right.
yeah, I'm interested in it. Having stuff thrown at me, I think that was another one that I had never experienced, but I think I have had something. I had a rock thrown at me on a recent expedition last year. Have you ever experienced that? Have you had anything thrown at you?
Absolutely. On multiple occasions I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, has most of your investigations, Brian, been up in the Smoky area?
Mm, I do a lot in the Smokies, for sure. I do a ton of investigating in the Smokies, but where I'm positioned, I'm really kind of in a unique area because I've got the Smokies, and I've got the Cumberland Mountains. Then we have the Tellico area. So I'm kind of in this bowl, and also Oak Ridge. I'm like 45 minutes from being on the trail essentially anywhere around here. So, the Dennis Martin case would take me, if I were to, jump in my truck, drive up there, probably take me about 50 minutes to get to. While at the
Wow.
same time, I could get my truck, drive to Brushy Mountain, and it would take me, I think that drive takes me like 42 minutes. So I really get
Wow,
to kind of bounce
you're in
around and
a,
experience.
you're in a good spot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ristel here says Brian gets things thrown to him during live investigations.
yeah, yeah. It's happened on live on multiple occasions. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, Ristel is one of our regulars. He's a member of our show. So
Okay.
he's one that said he was excited that when he saw that you were coming on over here.
Yeah.
All right. So I mentioned a little bit before, and you just mentioned the Dennis Martin case.
Mhm.
Feral people, you've been hitting that pretty hard recently, right?
I have. I have slowed down as far as because I'm taking it kind of a different route than typical YouTube videos. Some of the evidence that I have found now, in my opinion, deserves a lot more um, uh, uh, like a better presentation. So I'm playing everything that I found really close to my chest. I've told my friend Willis about some of the things that I've found, and he knows about it, but he's the only one that knows. He's the only one that knows kind of what I'm doing, the direction that I'm going in, and yeah, it's my perspective on feral people has changed dramatically as well. I think a lot of the people have this idea that the feral people are, just kind of homeless people that essentially revert back to um, their kind of natural instincts. Now, I'm not totally ruling, that theory out, but I definitely think that it's a lot more in depth to it. I think that the feral people themselves have essentially been evolving um, from um, really possibly two different periods. There's either on one side of it, possibly the Neanderthal.
Hmm.
That could be
Wow.
an explanation that the Neanderthal themselves are not gone, that they're still here,
Right.
but our perception alone is different than what it really, is. And then there is the other kind of theory that I have based on it is as a result of the Trail of Tears. Individuals were pushed into the mountains and were forced to survive there, and as a result of the sheer terror that they were put through, they just never left. That generational fear is still there, and they're still out there. um some of the stuff that I'm going to be coming forward with now is definitely going to make you think differently about it as well. Once you see what I've found, and why they are not seen all the time. So, yeah.
That's crazy, man. You I raised my eyebrows a couple times right then when you were talking, because first off, the Neanderthal, I never considered that, but that's so interesting
Yeah.
that they could possibly could still some of them be here, and we just
Mhm.
pushed them into the caves, into the mountains. That makes so much sense, man. I mean, you think caveman is
Yeah.
Neanderthal,
Yep.
you know, and
Yep.
also the Trail of Tears. All the that was just terrible in itself, and all the families and the individuals that we pushed up further and further into the mountains. They had to
Yep.
find a new way to live, you know.
Yeah. And we
So
hear stories all the time about from like World War II or the Vietnam War. Individuals that were pushed into the mountains and thought that the war was still going on, and they continued to live there for decades. You
yeah,
know, so obviously the Trail of Tears was a lot different than a world war. So I would imagine that trauma, for the Native Americans, would be something just absolutely horrific that they wouldn't risk it in any way, shape, or form. You know, so
yeah.
yeah.
Um. Okay. First off, before I ask you this question, I want to thank you for your service. You're a veteran, right?
Yes, sir.
What branch were you in?
I was in the army.
Okay. Thank you very, very much for your service. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Um, the very first video I watched of yours
Hmm.
was you talking to some people in your area. It was an older gentleman and his wife who was also a veteran, and you approached them in this diner that was special to you. I think you and your father used to eat there,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. And
Yeah.
you offered to buy them some pie, and they
Hmm.
accepted. And you started talking to them
Hmm.
about these feral people. Will you share with my audience, those that haven't seen that video, how that conversation went?
Yeah, sure. It was a very um unique experience. I lost my father in August of 2023, and the diner was somewhere that we would go to, and I was essentially I don't know, maybe feeling sorry for myself. I think that's what I said in the video. And I had didn't necessarily kind of want to um eat alone, and I had noticed the hat that the man was wearing, and just kind of offered, trying to maybe not sit in that diner alone on that day. And we talked about the military, how it had changed and whatnot. And they we essentially got to what I do now, and they started talking about some experiences that not only that they had, that they called the demon men, but some of their family members that they were dealing with. And um with that, their their family was these demon men, so to speak, were essentially coming out of the mountains and attacking their farm animals, their chickens and whatnot. And the niece um had a bad experience, and she ended up taking a shot at some of them. Now they explained that these individuals were, or these, not individuals, the demon men is what they called them, were coming out of these tunnel systems that run throughout the Smokies. um they are kind of at the opposite end, um from where, well, not really the opposite end. um I mean, I guess on the other side of the mountain, essentially, of where Dennis Martin disappeared. And with this situation, it really kind of got me thinking and doing a lot, kind of more research and into the possible tunnel systems. Well, recently, in an area that's called Porter's Creek, um, a a family of tourists, were in the mountains, and they were just kind of, you know, enjoying the mountains. One of the children had moved a stone. Well, behind the stone was this massive network of tunnels that run all throughout the Smoky Mountains. Now,
Wow.
the park themselves tried to claim that this tunnel system was used by moonshiners. Um, which I guess kind of, maybe, possibly, maybe. Um, I could not find a single piece of evidence that suggested that the moonshiners actually used these tunnels. That's just the theory that the Park Service, put out. So, in combination with this tunnel system that was found in Porter's Creek, then this family who had multiple experiences with these individuals that they said came out of tunnels in the ground, it really kind of gives a lot of credibility to the fact that there is a very good chance that these feral people are living under the ground, in the Smokies and around the Smokies. There's another case, and that's something that's really interesting that goes along with the Dennis Martin case, is that, and if you look on the system, if you look on a map, way where they disappeared, they're not too far away. Each one of the disappearances that happened, they're not too far away from either that tunnel system or another cave system that runs, all in the mountains themselves. So yeah, that's part of the research that I'm really getting into now. I've kind of ran into a couple of roadblocks with that, with the toxic gas exposure, is something that I've had to deal with. So it can get really dangerous, and it's a slow, methodical process, but I'm making a lot of process at the same time.
Yeah,
Progress,
very
not
cool.
process. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Now you mentioned Dennis Martin again. That's another story that just fascinates me. I did a show on that not long ago. A lot of people try to tie Bigfoot, think that Bigfoot maybe had something to do with that. I personally don't. What's
No.
your take on the Dennis Martin case?
with the Dennis Martin case, I'm leaning towards the involvement of this group that's living in the mountains, meaning feral people, for sure. That's not the only case. There was another disappearance that happened. I think it's probably 3.5 miles, essentially, as the crow flies. Um, the Michael Heron disappearance. Have you heard about that case?
Is that the guy on the four wheeler?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Please go ahead and talk about it.
yeah, he, in 2008, Michael Heron, he went up to go take care of some of his property, um, and he went over to, I believe it was his son was living there at the time at this house. He had parked his truck. Um, on his truck, he had a trailer with a lawnmower, and he had gone inside, just like any East Tennessee guy would. If you go out to this area, your son's got a four-wheeler, you're gonna go jump on the four-wheeler, go run around before you mow the yard. I mean, that's just what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
And he walked inside, he put his keys down, he put his gun down, put his wallet down, hopped on the four-wheeler. He From my understanding, he drove past his son, and even like waved at him, and then just completely vanished, just completely disappeared. They find the four wheeler. It was still in high gear, but with no damage to it at all. So it wasn't. They didn't think that he had like an accident or anything like that. He just straight up vanished. This case for me has been kind of difficult because his family members, they're still around, and these theories on the feral people, these theories on Sasquatch, aliens, all of this stuff, this family members still have to deal with this, and it's really hard, um, for for me to immediately attribute his disappearance to the feral people, because he still has family, and if you're not into the paranormal, it really, in a sense, can make the situation feel like somebody's trying to exploit the situation. But the reality is that we have these people that have been disappearing in these areas now for decades, and we do not have any sort of logical answer to. And I think it's very important for us to continue to talk about it, and still bring it up, because um it puts other people at risk, in reality,
Yeah, you're
because
absolutely right.
we have more people now visiting our parks than ever. I don't know if you've been up in the Smokies lately, but man, um there's people everywhere. It's like ants, man. They're all over the place.
Yeah, the
So
Smokies is the most visited national park in the country.
yeah,
And
it's
you hit on something, Brian, that really got my attention just a few minutes ago, and I've never considered it, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Was the fact that this gentleman that you were just talking about, this didn't happen that long ago. His family is still around.
yeah,
I'm assuming they're in the same area.
yeah,
And if you start thinking about talking about feral people, there's been talks of cannibalism and stuff with these things. Nobody wants to think about their dad, their
no,
son, their brother being taken and eaten.
yeah,
So you have to tread so lightly because you have to consider their feelings,
yeah,
and I've never thought about that till you brought that up.
yeah, absolutely. And it's a hard reality to face, but also at the same time, I am working. my feral cases tend to overlap and they continue. Uh, I don't really get to kind of close them. I just continue researching and continue to find new information. But I had somebody that had reached out to me that was from the North Carolina side. Um, and their son was he was in the military. That's essentially why he reached out to me, because I was in the military too. His son was in the military. He was a flight medic. Well, once he got out, he went to his local hospital or his local EMT place, and worked on the emergency flight systems, going to different accidents. Well, one day they get a call about a guy that is or a man that is propped up on a telephone pole that they described as being heavily inbred, and that
Wow.
once they picked this man up and took him into the helicopter, they took him to Chapel Hill Hospital. They discovered that he had contracted Kuru, which is a disease that you get from consuming human brain tissue. Yeah. So, you know, the guy was
Heavily
very heavy.
inbred.
Say it again.
You said you described him as heavily inbred.
Yeah.
How disturbing is that?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brian. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. So, we have these documented cases, and, this isn't far, from where these disappearances are happening. Some of the evidence that I've found lately, really just kind of makes the situation a little bit more disturbing, because, it really kind of changes. It makes you think about, the human condition itself, and you know, it's it's all really, really interesting, interesting work, and it's very scary as well. You never know what you're going to be walking into. But as far as um, Bigfoot being a part of it, I don't think that he is. I know this is gonna kind of sound weird, but the experiences that I personally have had with Bigfoot, they were very non-threatening. I personally do not worry about like a Bigfoot attack like on me. And
Yeah.
my buddy Willis, he had put me on to he sent me this image that he had captured from his game cam one time in this area, which this is really kind of unique. I'm sure you know who Scott Carpenter is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So uh, this is really cool, and it really gives a lot of credit to Scott's work. Okay. So Willis had he had set up these trail cams, and he had captured to be what looked to be like the side kind of profile of a dogman, and
Mhm.
in the area it's really kind of, in my opinion, like separated. Like you have Bigfoot on one side and you have a dog man on the other side. So he told me where the location was, and I go out there and I'm looking, I'm hiking all over the place, and I'm not having, very much luck. And that happens, that's cryptid hunting, that it's more often than not, you're not going to find anything. So
Right.
as I'm walking back, I see this other kind of side trail, and I'm about to leave, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna walk down this area and just see kind of what else is here. And I look down and I find this massive set of footprints, and they're fresh, like fresh footprints. And um, I'm totally shocked. I'm so excited because I just find these prints, and all of a sudden I see this big black just monster just plowing through the woods, and I
Damn.
like stumble back, and um I rack my firearm, and I actually turn the camera back to myself, and I go, I think I'm about to get eaten by Bigfoot. And I was dead serious, like 100% dead serious. And you know, the creature ended up taking off, and I was just so completely blown away to what had happened. And so I'm like walking around, and I'm finding all of these just amazing prints, right? So I'm like, this is awesome. I have a new research area. I'm so excited about this. So I'm continue to do like I'm going back and forth to this location, just over and over and over. I'm finding, you know, more evidence. I'm like setting up, there's a gifting rock that, you know, I'm setting things up on. There's all of this just kind of interesting activity happening there. And then come to find out later on, Scott Carpenter is doing his research in the same exact area. We had never met, never discussed this in any way, shape, or form. And we are both capturing similar evidence in the same area. And
Wow.
you know, that's like, to me, I mean, that's just that the odds of that happening are just astronomical, you know. And it was so amazing. And you know, I didn't even get an opportunity to talk to Scott about this before he passed, but you know, I think we both would have just been like, this is so awesome, you know. We would have been so excited because, you know, we're validating each other's research and not even knowing
Absolutely.
it, you know.
Yeah.
So it was really cool.
You're absolutely right, man. That's awesome to think about two different researchers not even knowing that they're in the same area finding the same shit. I
Yeah,
mean, that's validation. What else
yeah,
do you need, man?
yeah. You know, that's
It's
what
awesome.
everybody talks about, like in this kind of you know, field is, you know, we got to find a way to reproduce our evidence, you know, non-biasly. Well, me and Scott did, and we didn't even didn't even know
Mm.
it, you know.
Yeah.
And that, and it's the same, and it turned out to be the same area. I'm not sure if you saw some of Scott's Dogman images that he had captured, but it turned out to be out in that area as well. And recently I found just massive canine prints. I've got
Really.
casts of them, and those I found on Alive as well, which was really cool. So
Yeah. Yeah, we hadn't even talked about the whole Dogman thing. I'd love to get your opinion on that, but we're getting up on an hour, and I do want to get to these questions in these
sure,
comments.
yeah,
This is the first night. I'm sure you heard. This is the first time we're ever trying this technique. So we have several comments and questions that people have submitted. So the
okay,
last 10 minutes of the show here, we're going to try to run through them as best you can.
okay,
Um, Going in order, the first one submitted by Cheryl Singh, I guess. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. I watched your video this weekend. You were on a ridge, snow all over, till you saw prints in urine on the
yeah,
snow, and the river started really making noise. It scared you lots.
yeah.
Don't blame you. It sounded scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess there's no question there. That was more or less a comment.
Just a
Oh,
comment.
okay. I got you. Yeah. So, in that area, that's Pond Mountain. It's up towards Johnson City area. That's a really unique area. It's known for its Bigfoot activity up there. Generally, Bigfoot activity doesn't happen a whole lot in the wintertime up there, but I had a lead on a feral case that I was trying to follow up on, and the guy had a death in the family. We ended up talking, and everything was okay. But I ended up going out just to kind of look around and see what I could find. It just snowed. We don't typically get crazy snows like that here in East Tennessee, and one of the situations that I ran into is the water ended up from the snow melt rising like really quickly on me, and I was way out in the mountains at that point. So yeah, that was a scary experience. So, but luckily I was able to get out of it okay. So
Yeah. All right. The next one is from Joe Pat, and you did hit on this one right after he asked the question. So where do feral people come from? And you gave your opinion, Neanderthal, and possibly pushback from the Trail of Tears.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, or is that pretty much it?
No, I'm not necessarily ruling out the idea that an individual could revert back to their feral instincts, but I don't think that that's very probable at this point from what I've found and the research that I've done. So yeah.
Okay. All right, and this one is just a statement from one of my good friends, a hell of a guy, Troy in Tennessee. Says, "Thank you for the check you wrote, payable with your life for my gold star father." So he's just thanking you for your service.
Absolutely.
All right, what we got next? Miss Naoma Finn asked, "Do you think Dennis Martin was taken by feral people?" I think you answered that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think something along those lines happened. Yeah.
Okay. Another comment from Naoma. Fun fact: if you overlay a map of the cave systems in the U.S. with the map of missing 411 disappearances, there is a lot of overlap. Have you seen that map?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. What do you make of that? Because I've heard some people dispute it and say that it's not accurate, but I don't know.
Well, the thing is the cave systems do change pretty frequently. I think a lot of some of the disappearances are as a result of caves essentially collapsing. I've been in areas where you can see that there were tunnels that the caves had just collapsed. I definitely think that's a real possibility that essentially the earth just swallows people up, and it's not necessarily a paranormal. Well, I mean, I guess it would be kind of paranormal, but I don't think that there's anything outside of that, happening. There's not an additional force or something like that. It's just part of the planet we live on.
Yeah. All right, we got another one from my good buddy Troy. Do you believe there are pyramids in the Smokies?
In the Smokies, I don't know about the Smokies. Somewhere else, maybe. You'll find out soon.
Okay. Can't talk about that. Okay.
No.
All right. So maybe not the Smokies, but you do have something coming.
I do. Yeah.
All right. And the last one is a question from Deanna Christensen. Thank you, Deanna. She asked, do they take people to eat?
Deanna Christensen is like, is this Shannon's mom? Is she still on there?
She should still be on here. I've been watching the chat pretty closely. I told her I saved her question to ask.
Okay. Do they take them to eat?
Do fair
I
people
definitely,
take people to eat? Yeah.
I definitely think that that's a possibility. Yes, you know,
Yeah,
I
we
don't.
talked about that a little bit. I feel like there's
Okay,
definitely cannibalism involved.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Deanna. I'm sorry. Yeah, my heart just kind of sunk, and I'm not sure if you know who I'm talking about. The other Deanna Christensen. Uh, yeah,
Okay.
Shannon.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of lost. So I
Well,
don't know.
um, a friend of mine, Shannon Christensen. She was
Oh,
brutally
okay.
attacked and yeah, and murdered. Her mom's
Oh
name was,
shit.
yeah. It was a case. That's another one of those cases that need to be brought up in the media more. It was
Where
horrific.
was this? What,
It was
talk
in
about it.
it was in Knoxville. It was in, let's see here, 2007, January, beginning of January or something. Shannon and her boyfriend, they were abducted by four individuals that held them in a house for several days, essentially torturing them, raping them, and ended up murdering them. And um, it was kind of one of those situations where it was I don't know if it was a demographic or the demographics of it prevented it from making it to national news, but it was a horrific, horrific situation that these people that they're coming up for parole. It's like
Ah,
it's you ought to look into it. Her name was Shannon Christensen.
I'm going
Um,
to.
yeah, and yeah, man, it was a horrible. And I was good friends with her. Back in the day, and her mom's name was uh, Diana. So when that
So you
popped up, my
personally
heart.
knew this person.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We went to high school together. We hung out like, back in the day when you'd have the house parties. It was just one of those people with one of those faces that you would always see and talk to, and it was just like, yeah. But yeah,
How many of these?
when I saw that
How
name, I was,
many? Yeah. How many of these animals have to be paroled and then do it again before we fucking realize not to let these animals out?
and
You know?
what there was actually one of the people that participated in the actions against Shannon, and her boyfriend was a female, and like, I mean, the case is like, like, you couldn't make a horror movie this bad, like
Oh,
the things
God.
that had happened, like, I mean, just awful. Like, it was so bad that the house that it happened in, the county ended up purchasing the house and tearing it down. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was like, it was that bad.
When did
So
it happen again, Brian?
um, it was in January of 2007, I believe.
Damn. That's terrible, man. That's awful.
Yeah, yeah, it was Shannon and Christopher Newsom.
They were a couple.
Yeah, yeah,
God,
yeah,
That's
that's
awful.
yeah.
some
And
people's worst fears.
they essentially, it was, Shannon drove this champagne colored Forerunner. She had it since high school, and that's what kind of caused this to happen. They carjacked him. Um, Supposedly, I don't know, man. The case is just rough. It
Yeah.
was so rough. We are all like going out looking for her, trying to find her, and dude, it was bad. So
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Sorry you had to go
Yeah.
through that, man. That's terrible.
Well, it's important to remember, and it's important
Yeah.
for people to know, because these people come up for freaking parole, and their asses need to stay in jail and rot.
Yes, they do.
So
You're absolutely right, man.
yeah.
All right, buddy. We are at the hour. Everybody knows your channel and everything, but go ahead and hit them with it one more time. Anything that you want to promote, anything you want to share, here's your chance, man. Just let loose.
Yeah, just subscribe to Black Mass Paranormal. I've got I post pretty frequently. I'm on the trail pretty frequently. I do my best not to be one of those creators that don't put anything out, for months at a time. I'm always out doing something. So,
All right, and Brian, on a personal note, man, I'm only an hour and a half away from you. If you ever need somebody, and camping is my thing. If you
all
ever
right.
need somebody to go out with you, there's safety in numbers. We know that,
Yeah,
especially going out
for
looking
sure.
for these feral people. Give me a shout, man. I would love to get out there and hang out and do some of this with you and try to figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah, man, sounds good. Sounds good. I'll definitely take you up on that. I'm trying to get people to come with me, but everybody talks a big game, but when it comes down to it, man,
There is no game, man. I just last weekend, my buddy Troy that you heard me talking about, Troy and I were in the LBL this past weekend.
yeah, that's
I
my
drove
next
4 hours. I drove 4 hours to get there. Okay, and it
Yeah.
was miserable, raining the whole time, and we stuck it out. So I'm not one of these that are just blowing it up, smoke up your ear. I will
Cool.
get out there and hang
Yeah.
out with you, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it. It's fun. I mean, it's an amazing experience. Like, even if you don't find anything, it's so cool to go to these locations. I went up and investigated Mothman, and that was just so amazing, man. Going to that
That would
old
be awesome.
town with all the history and all of that stuff. Like, it's so
Yeah.
cool to experience that stuff.
Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually got a piece of the Silver Bridge right here.
That's so cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
All right, man. We will stay in touch. Get out there and do some camping, hiking around. And again, man, thank you so very much for coming and hanging out. This is one of the best shows we've done in a long time, and It's all because of you, man. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, bud. We'll see you.
All right. See ya.
So cool.
How good was that?
All the good ones like fly by. All of them.
I know, man. It does not seem like we were talking for no hour, man. 10 minutes at the most.
We could have just kept going.
I know. Great participation by the audience tonight. Thank you guys so very much. A few new people, new names out there that we didn't. There's W.R. Bruce. Never good podcast, Brian. Really enjoyed it. Yeah. A lot of people that we didn't, that weren't normal tonight. So we appreciate it. I hope you guys hit that subscribe button and come back and hang out with us. But good stuff, man. I could talk about the feral people and the Dennis Martin case and all that stuff. I could talk for hours about it. And Brian just seems like a really, really cool dude. So
dude,
I'm
he's
glad.
like so down to earth. So, and that's what makes it so easy to talk to him, is because he is so down to earth. Naomi said nobody
Naomi
was normal.
Yeah, no, Wayne, no one that watches the show is normal. I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's right.
All right, you got anything before we get out of here?
Yes. Thursday evening at 8 p.m. I am doing a solo interview with Keith Linder, who lived at the Bothell Hell House in Seattle. He lived there for 4 years. I'm having him on. So come and see me. 8:00 Thursday.
Yeah, and as she mentioned, she's doing that one on her own because I goofed again. I double booked myself. I will be on. Yeah, I'll be on this Thursday with our buddy Bobby Dahl over at the Caffeinated Cryptid. He's had me scheduled for a month, and we were talking. We have 2 schedules. We have this or calendars. We have this calendar that Tiffany and I share. We both have access to, and we both book people. And you get a link, confirm all this good stuff, and then I have my personal. Why I don't ever think to combine them to check, I don't know. But
Okay.
anyway, I've double booked myself. So instead of rescheduling one of either of these guys, we don't want to do that. Tiffany is going to do this one, and I can't tell you how bummed I am because
Yeah.
this story is freaking amazing. Tiffany is going to have a hell of a show for you guys Thursday.
Yes, and we are
And
extending the show 30 minutes.
yeah, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be more than 30 minutes. I say like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, because I mean, the video diary that I'm choosing to show is 25 minutes, but that has to be shown so people know that this is not just another quote unquote ghost story, because this is deep stuff. Like, I am literally covering my office in prayer before I do this interview. It's bad. It's what he
like the Zach Baggins has something to do with this too.
He did, yes, and it turned out really bad. Was Zach Bagans, and so we're going to talk about that. It was just how he stayed there for 4 years. I would have noped on out of there. Like, I mean, I was 5 minutes into this video that he sent me of 25 minutes, and I'm like, holy hell, man, it's wild.
Well, this is all our girl Tiffany. He emailed her. She set it all up, and she's doing it on her own. So you guys enjoy that. I hate that you're not going to be able to watch me, but you can catch me later.
It's like brother and sister, we're competing. Who's going to have the most people? But everybody can catch them on replay, both shows. So
yeah, and I'm excited about hanging out with Bobby. Don't get me wrong. There's a reason. I could have easily just told Bobby we'll do it another time, but I don't want to do that because I'm excited about going over there and hanging out. Bobby's a cool dude. I like him. I like talking to him. So I'm excited about doing that show.
Right.
So I don't want it to make it all sound bad. It's not going to be bad. But yeah, got a busy week this week, a busy month.
Yes, 9 shows. Oh, and I'll be on with Glenn Jackson on the 7th.
You're frozen as hell. Look at that look.
I know, but can you hear me still?
I hear you.
Okay. I look stoned, but that's all right. I'll be on with Glenn Jackson on February the 7th. So, I mean, we are going to be just.
Yeah, Glenn was cool, dude.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. I don't want to stop because you look so stupid.
I know. I always freeze on the worst faces. I have you're sitting there with your eyes closed. So it's so funny. We're so unprofessional.
Say your goodbyes. Let's get out of here.
Goodbye, everybody. I'm going to get off of here and not look so stoned.
All right. Everybody out there had a great participation from the audience tonight. And I think the questions at the end worked out perfectly. We're going to continue to do that. So, again, guys, love you guys so much. Thank you for all the support. Need a few more people to become members, but we'll talk about that later. But until then, guys, until we see you again, y'all be good to yourselves. Be good to each other, more importantly. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.